Ragin Nation? How y'all doing? This is Alex, you watching Ragin Ronin review. And last Tuesday I saw Now You See Me. It is a magician movie directed by Louis Leterrier, who's directed films like the first two Transporter films, Unleashed starring Jet Li, The Incredible Hulk, and also the Clash of the Titans remake. So he has a track record of directing some very over-the-top action films and some fantasy-based films. Now You See Me is a movie about magic and the magicians that perform those tricks. And magic is, of course, the art of trickery and illusion. So there is some sort of realism to it, right? Or is there? Let me just start this review by saying that the best film to date dealing with magic is The Prestige, directed by Christopher Nolan. And just like The Prestige, Now You See Me follows the exact same formula as any movie that deals with magic and magicians. What I mean by that is that you have the magic show element, you have the explanation of misdirection, you also have the parties which are interested in finding the truth behind the magic tricks, and of course you have the scene which explains how everything came together. It is a very standard and cliche formula, and this movie does not make any effort to make it more or less different than that. This is a cat and mouse movie about a team of magicians who steal from the rich and give to the poor. The team of magicians is led by Jesse Eisenberg, and his team consists of Dave Franco, Woody Harrelson, and Ela Fisher. They're being chased down by an FBI agent played by Mark Ruffalo and his Interpol partner played by Melanie Laurent, and the supporting cast include Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman. So we have quite the all-star cast here. I think that this is Jesse Eisenberg's best role to date. I really like them in this. I also like the rest of the characters on the magician team. While I do think that this isn't much of a stretch for our veteran actors, Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman, I feel that including them really added some weight to this dynamic cast. I think the story in this movie is really quite interesting. It has a lot of layers to it, but one thing you gotta remember that in any magician movie, you're constantly being reminded of misdirection. So because of this, it makes you want to try to figure out the movie while you're watching the movie. And in some ways, it's kind of predictable because it's just too obvious. If some things don't add up, it must be misdirection. The problem with this film is that it doesn't really seem to care about any sense of reality or plausibility. Magic is of course about creating illusion, but there are just so many moments where you feel that they have just crossed that fine line between reality and fantasy. No matter how they try to explain everything, they always seem to leave out some parts or information which audiences would consider as minor or even major plot holes. And unfortunately, this movie is just so full of them. Or full of it. This really all came down to some extremely lazy writing, or what I'd like to call cinematic conveniences. Basically, you can try to explain the story to me all you want, but what it really comes down to is what the director wants to present to the audience. If the director says it is that way because it happened like that, then it is what it is. And I don't buy that at all. Like I said, this is very lazy writing. You can't give me a magician movie without explaining to me how everything worked. Otherwise, I feel like I'm watching a feature-length movie version of a Chris Angel segment. This movie had a very engaging beginning, but every time they went into doing a magic show and magic tricks, the movie had completely lost me. I was totally disengaged whenever they were doing magic because regardless of how they were going to explain it, it would just feel totally unbelievable. This is a brainless ride. It has some fun action sequences and some very unique cinematography, but at the end of it all, the only magic trick that the director pulled on us is being able to swindle the cost of a movie ticket out of you. This movie is really full of problems. I felt that it had some potential, but it was just so full of what I like to call cinematic conveniences and plot holes that all that combined really didn't work for me. And it also had this completely unnecessary subtle romance between the two agents, which added absolutely no depth to the story. This movie is really quite predictable. It is definitely not worth full price, and for the most part, I was somewhat entertained, but as the movie progressed, I just felt less and less engaged. And basically, I was watching it for the sake of the director presenting to us whatever it was on the screen. In fact, it felt like the director was presenting to us a feature-length magic show on a theater screen with no plausible explanation. Go watch it on a cheap night or rent it, but definitely don't pay full price for it. 5 out of 10. Let me know what your thoughts are about it on the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed this review, hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation, and also follow me on Twitter at Ragin Nation. My name is Alex Yu, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace. But I gotta say that it didn't bother me that much, because keep in mind, Zack Snyder was not trying to make a carbon copy of the originals. Now let's talk about the direction and Zack Snyder as the director.